Okay, picture this. Alarms are blaring in a public health office somewhere in the world. Reports are flooding in about some weird new illness. And panic? Yeah, it's right around the corner. But behind all that chaos, a clock has just started ticking on a process that's designed to bring order to that chaos. Let's peel back the curtain and see how it all works.
So, that's the big question, right? How do you stare into a storm of confusing, incomplete data and in just 2 days make a call that could literally affect millions of people? Is it a real threat or just a false alarm? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
You know, every potential crisis kicks off the exact same way, as a complete and total mystery. It's a race against the clock, and honestly, the first hurdle is just figuring out what in the world you're even looking at.
I mean, at the very beginning, the picture is just incredibly murky. You've got these fragmented reports coming in, barely any scientific data, and the whole situation is changing by the minute. It's the very definition of trying to build the plane while you're flying it. This is the chaos public health officials have to cut right through.
But believe it or not, there really is a method to the madness. To fight that chaos, experts deploy this highly structured and incredibly fast-paced process.
And this is the window. That's it. The entire initial assessment, from the very first alert to a formal recommendation, has to get done in just 1 to 2 days. The pressure is just immense, and there's absolutely no time to waste.
The tool they pull out of their toolbox is called a Rapid Risk Assessment, or an RRA. The best way to think of it is as the official playbook for a public health emergency. It's this formal, systematic way to take all that messy, early information and distill it down into a clear, actionable level of risk.
And look, this is why the whole process is so trusted. A good RAA isn't just some expert's gut feeling. It's held to a really rigorous standard. It has to be transparent, it's got to be based on the best science available at that moment, and it has to be consistent. This whole setup ensures the final decision is as rational and unbiased as humanly possible, even when the pressure is through the roof.
All right, so the clock's ticking, and the investigation begins. And just like any good detective story, it all starts with gathering every last piece of available evidence.
And the process is super methodical. First things first, they have to confirm the threat is even real and not just a rumor or a misinterpretation. Then they assemble the A team, bringing in everyone from epidemiologists to lab specialists. And this is crucial. They formulate specific questions to focus the entire investigation, making sure everyone is hunting for the answers that will actually determine the risk.
So once the clues are gathered and the team is in place, the real analysis gets underway. This is where they start connecting the dots to understand the true nature of what they're up against.
And to keep all of that analysis structured, especially when things are moving so fast, experts rely on 3 core pillars. It's a framework that makes sure no critical angle is overlooked.
The first pillar is what they call the hazard assessment. This is all about identifying the culprit. What's causing this? Is it a virus, a bacteria, some kind of chemical spill? You can't really fight an enemy you can't identify, so this is, without a doubt, the foundational step.
Next up, you've got the exposure assessment. So now we're focusing on the potential victims. How does this thing spread? Who is the most vulnerable? How many people are likely to come into contact with it? This is what helps them gauge the potential scale of the problem.
And finally, there's the context assessment. This is like surveying the entire crime scene. I mean, think about it. An outbreak in a super dense city with a major international airport is a completely different beast than one in a tiny, remote village. This pillar looks at everything: transportation, healthcare, even local customs that might affect how something spreads.
Okay, so the clues have been gathered, they've been analyzed. Now comes the moment of truth. It's time to synthesize all of that information into a single, understandable risk level. This is where the judgment call is made.
Globally, there are kind of 2 main ways experts do this. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they use what's called a risk matrix. Meanwhile, the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, or ECDC, they use a question-based algorithm. They're just different paths to the exact same destination, a clear final verdict on the risk.
So here's the WHO's approach. Check this out. It's actually pretty simple. You plot the likelihood of something happening against how severe its consequences would be. So, an event that's almost certain to happen and has severe consequences, boom, that scores a 10, the highest possible risk. It's a really elegant way to visualize a pretty complex calculation.
The ECDC's approach, on the other hand, feels a bit more like a decision tree. It walks the assessors through a series of really critical questions. Is this threat unusual? Is it likely to spread further? Is the disease severe? Are there any effective treatments? And each yes or no answer guides them down a path that leads to a final risk level.
Now here's the most important part. This whole process isn't just some academic exercise that ends up in a dusty report. That final risk score, it's a trigger. It translates directly into a clear and immediate plan of action.
And this table right here, this is the payoff for all that work. A score of 9 or 10 means very high risk, and that triggers an immediate all-hands-on-deck response. A low score, well, that can be handled with routine procedures. There is zero ambiguity. The assessment dictates the scale and the urgency of the response.
You know, this quote really just sums it all up perfectly. The rapid risk assessment doesn't just suggest a response, it determines it. It answers the most critical questions. Do we act? How fast do we act? And how big does our response need to be?
So, the next time you see that breaking news headline about a new virus or some unknown illness, remember this process. Behind all the noise and the sensationalism, there's a team of experts, a ticking clock, and a highly structured plan that's designed to protect all of us. And knowing that, does it change how you'll see that story?